Just all right. Once again, welcome, folks. This is going to be a session on the book by Bill Bryson, Mother Tongue, and as the subtitle of the book suggests, right? So it's about English and how it got that way. So it's quite an elaborate book. There are different chapters, that actually talk about, the history of English, and at this point of time, how or why exactly the reason English it is what it is at this point of time, right? So one of the things that I will actually point out is, uh, let's say, since most of the folks are quizzers here, we end up talking about, in general, if you end up making a quiz, a lot of it, if it's a general quiz, and you don't sort of have that, lens, most of the content is something that's Western, right? It's not Indian, like specifically, it's not Indian. But then, for sure, it just happens that 30% of it, 40% of it, unless you have like a lens, it ends up being something that's Western, right? Something that's from Europe, something that's from America, and something like that, right? And the reason being, the the whole language and the whole internet, right? English is so widely available uh, across the internet that it's the first thing you end up coming is as accessible piece of information. So the book also goes into talking about why how there have been some standardizations when it comes to making English like a very world language, or a lot of people in America actually worked on making English a lot more accessible, and that is exactly the reason why we have some dictionaries, and they are quite popular, and all of those reasons they sort of make up the whole book, and that is what the whole book is about, right? And of course, everyone, particularly in India, as long as you are coming from a uh, certain background, uh, like English is one of those languages that you end up knowing about, right? So, would anyone like to, why would guess why Amitabh Bachchan is someone who we see here in the first light?
Is it because of that English dialogue? Talk English, walk English, and
Exactly, and the movie.
I don't remember the word.
Okay,
What
Is
song
this
any,
was it?
Chalte Chalte?
not
Or
chalte chalte,
Chupke Chupke, sorry. Not Chalte Chalte, Chup
not
Chup.
not chupke chupke.
This
So this
Anand.
is not Anand either. This is Namak Halal. So I actually have the clip, and I mean, I was first wondering, should I even put this clip in the in the first place? But then the clip sort of makes sense. So I'll give the premise, and try to play the one last 1 minute of it when he sort of says the dialogue. So the context here is, there's this guy who happens to own a business. Amitabh Bachchan comes along with this guy to, sort of give him an interview, and the guy ends up asking him a couple of questions, and then we end up having Amitabh's famous dialogue. Okay, so I'll start playing, from around this part, and let's hear what Amitabh sort of has to say here. Yeah, so like that's the clip, right? I mean, Samanya Gyan, Samanya knowledge, general knowledge, and he sort of binds that with English, and we are at a quiz, so it just sort of makes sense that that we sort of have this clip in the quiz. Before we get started, any thoughts on the clip? Did it remind you of any particular meme? Any funny comment that you'd like to put on about the clip? So it sort of reminded me of, the meme, right? Where you have a guy sitting next to a girl. He's wearing specs, and he has his hand on her shoulders, and he is sort of explaining her something, and she gets nothing about it. It sort of reminds me of that particular meme, because the guy at this point of time, after a point of time, just shuts down his brain, right? So yeah, with that, let's get started with the session, and just a quick test, something we get started before the actual question comes in. Just and this, again, something from the book. Everything that you see here is something from the book. So just as a quick test, see if you can tell which one of the following words are misspelled.
I
Right?
think anomaly,
Consensus.
accommodate, rhythm, then
Concede,
aficionado.
Okay.
anomaly,
Okay.
um,
Consensus.
consensus. Yeah. rhythm,
Diphtheria also, I think.
Yeah.
Diphtheria,
diphtheria. Yeah.
Okay.
On the right side, like
graffiti.
most of them are vowels.
Ophthalmologist also. It should be ophthalmologist.
Okay. So any correct words that you folks thinks are there in the whole list?
I don't think there is a single one. No,
Yeah, I
supersede.
also don't think.
Supersede? Is that
No, no,
correct?
no, 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 no. It's SED. So I think most all of them are incorrect, is it?
Okay,
No,
that
there are no correct words.
Yeah.
so let's actually see after what the book has to say and what Bill has to say about this. And you are actually right, they all are. And so was this word misspelled at the end of the preceding paragraph. Bill, this
Oh, very nice.
I'm sorry, I'll stop, but I trust you. You get the point that English can be like a maddening, difficult language to spell correctly, right? So that's how he explains this whole trick and this whole short exercise, if I were to call it, right? Uh, so yeah, just on the stuff that we saw, just a quick prompt. Any set of words that sort of always confuse you. Something like stuck, struck, bought, brought. I remember for me, I had no clue. I was very wrong about the spelling of favorite for a very long time in my schooling life. So yeah. Any other words that you folks thinks are always confusing for you? Again, you can type it in the chat or just say it out loud.
Well, not confusing for me, but I
There are
absolutely hate it when
there are times
someone
I get
confuses.
Okay.
Go ahead, Parjat.
Well,
Go ahead, Parjat.
yeah,
no, go. You can go ahead.
yeah, Naman then Parijat. Go ahead.
Yeah, so I was saying not confusing for me, but I absolutely hate it when people confuse your and you are. So why are you
Right.
are and why are you with an apostrophe R? So people do confuse that a lot, and it's
Yeah.
very sad to see. And
Yeah.
it happens on most occasions, especially on social media.
Right. Right. You are right. Uh, Parijat.
Yeah, one word that I have misspelled a lot of the time is receive. For some reason, instead of RECEI, I sometimes end up writing RECIE, which is obviously incorrect. But
But
and it's a very common word, but still, I don't know why I end up misspelling it
yeah.
at times.
Yeah. 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 And not just that, right? Like okay, chicken has consciousness. Is that the way? Is that the correct way to spell it? Uh, yeah. I mean, so if someone would like to do the job for him and tell if that is the right way in which it has been spelled out.
I think
Uh,
it's correct.
It is correct. Okay, there you go. One word chicken. And also, what I was saying is also in emails, right? I mean, I write my name in English. You can say my name that this mail has been sent by, Vrishabh. But then still, when people respond, they end up, mi- misspelling my name a lot of times. Uh, yeah, so that's like always a bummer. And I've seen so many variations of my own spelling that it's I should make a collection at this point of time. So there's that.
Uh, I think your last name is really difficult to know how to pronounce just after reading it. Like there
Yeah,
are two D's, so which
yeah,
one is like
yeah. So
which?
it's the Marathi wala do, right? Gurde. So that's how we pronounce it. And also being Marathi, so uh, uh, that's the Marathi pronunciation for Gurde. Yeah. All right. Okay. Aryan, Divya, Parth, anything to add before we go ahead?
Can't think of any right now.
Okay. Okay. No worries. So just as I talked about names, right? Let's actually see what is the first question here. So how we'll do is this is actually like a format that we follow for some of our work calls or work with this. What you can do is you can post something like an X in the chat, and I will get to know that you would like to attempt the answer or guess the answer, right? And as much as possible, we will try to have answers and guesses from new people. And also feel free to give wrong answers as well, right? So feel free to give wrong answers. Feel free to share any meme references or anything else funny that reminds you of that point of at that point of time, right? So here's the first question. Now let's see who is this guy, right? And everywhere you see name in the brackets, it's like one particular variation of this guy's name. Okay, I'll read out the question. I already seen Naman has a guess, but I'll read out the question and then we'll see. More than 80 spellings of this guy's name have been recorded, including this variation of this particular name, variation 1, 2, 3, 4. The Oxford English Dictionary recognizes this particular spelling as the preferred spelling. However, he himself never spelled it the same way twice in his 6 known signatures, even using 2 different versions in his will. Curiously, the one spelling he never used was dash, right? Like the spelling with which all of us give his name, and the one that's there in the English dictionary, the Oxford English Dictionary, for his name. So who could this be, guy? Okay.
Is it Shakespeare? I think that was the first guess that came to mind.
Okay. Any other guesses,
No other guesses from me. Shakespeare.
folks? Any other guesses?
Even
apart
I
from
had the
Shakespeare?
same guess. I typed it.
Okay. Path says Shakespeare as well. Folks, any other guesses before we sort of see the answer?
No.
All right, let's see the answer. And this is indeed William Shakespeare. And quite fittingly, talking about English, it makes sense to also have him as the first question for a quiz that is based on the English language, right? So yeah, this is indeed Shakespeare. You are right, Parth. You are right, Naman. And others as well, whoever guessed Shakespeare. So, and the book also quotes that much is often made all of this, but a moment's reflection should persuade us that a person's signature, whether he be an Elizabethan playwright or modern orthodontist, is about the least reliable way of determining how he spells his name. So he himself was never quite consistent when it comes to spelling his own name, right? And there we go. Talking about the most famous guy or the guy who popularized English so much, and why we have English in the first place as a language, right? A lot of credit actually goes to Shakespeare, who himself never quite, uh, you know, went on to spell his own name correctly or consistently. So that's Shakespeare for you. All right, we'll go to the next question.
Wait, so just a minute. Before answering, we just have to put an X. We don't have to actually write the answer in.
Yeah, just post an X. I'll call out your name and then you can answer.
Okay.
Right. So here's the second question. So the residents of this particular island in Papua New Guinea have 100 different words for yams, right? While the Maori people of New Zealand have 35 words for dung, right? So along the same lines, it is claimed that Arabs have as many as 6,000 words for dashes and related equipment, though this number may be exaggerated. Meanwhile, the Tasmanian Aborigines have unique words for every type of tree, but not a single word that actually means tree itself. Okay? So what is this one blanked out word? Okay, so Arabs happen to have 6,000 words for this particular thing. I have a clue in case I don't see any guesses. So just think of Arab world. What are some of the things that come to your mind that sort of represent the Arab world? That should just try to picture things. Okay, Naman, go ahead.
I'm just taking wild guesses, okay, Rushabh? Don't take me very seriously.
Yeah, go ahead.
Arab, I'll say daggers.
Sorry?
Daggers.
Dagger. Okay. Not quite. Also, the blanks are indicator.
Okay.
All right, we'll go to Parija.
Could it be desert?
Okay, good guess. You are thinking on the right lines, Divya.
So I was going to say perfume.
Oh, not quite. So I'll say Parijat is all actually there on the right lines. So think of something, right? This is something that's true.
Do we have to write X to answer the question?
Yeah. You post an X, and according to the sequence, I will call out your name and then you answer. Let's go to Aryan.
Camels.
That is right. So camels actually have, these many different words for in the Arabian language, right? In the Arab, in the Middle East. And this goes on to the extent, of course, of gender, strength, uh, number of humps, color, character, physical disposition, and even based on their drinking water behavior, right? So just think of that, right? You see a camel, you see a unique camel that you've not quite seen before. Based on its appearance, you end up naming or giving it a new word, and there you go. You have 6,000 words for camel. So also while researching, I ended up coming across this article on Medium, that goes on to explain how many different words do Arabic, are there for the word camel, right? Great answer there. So what were you thinking, Aryan, before you sort of ended up saying camel?
I just went with you said desert is close, so just from that.
Absolutely right.
Yeah.
Correct answer. Very well done. We'll go to the next question. Okay, short question. I think the shortest of the whole lot. So the book also goes on to talk about how words are formed in the first place, and it says there are 6 in total different types in which you actually end up forming a word. One example is addition, and one example is subtract. Right, you subtract some words out of one particular phrase or a set of words. Right. So which pair of opposite words originates from the Old English phrase, God be with you? That's one. And the greeting, Hal be thou, or whole be thou. Okay, it's a pair of opposites, very widely used. So, and what you do from these phrases is you end up subtracting and you end up getting one particular phrase, uh, 2 words actually, and they're used in different forms, in opposite forms in some sense. Okay, Parijat.
Okay, one is goodbye. God be with you is goodbye. But hal
Okay.
you to or be thou hello.
And that is actually right. So,
Very nice.
God be with you and hello. So, goodbye actually comes from a shorter version of God be with you, and hello comes from this whole old English phrases, or set of phrase hell be do and whole be thou. That's how we get hello, and that's how we get goodbye, right? One of the origins of one particular English word. Okay. Again, great answer there. Very
So
well
that
done.
the hello being the name of Alexander Graham Bell's girlfriend, was that all a rumor?
You can say that. But then there's actually a different story why whenever we pick up a phone call and we end up saying hello and not something else, right? I think uh, there's one more guy. I think Edison wanted us to be calling something else. I think it's Edison who came up with hello, and there's one more guy who came up with something else. I don't quite remember what exactly is the story, but yeah, uh, not Alexander Graham Bell's partner there.
Okay.
Yeah. All right, going good so far. We will go to the next question. Okay, a couple of trivia tidbits are there in the whole presentation as well. This one particularly is not there. Is not about language, but it's still quite interesting. So I ended up putting it in the slide anyway, right? So to take a notable but little known example, Saint Patrick, the patron saint of Ireland, was the son of a Roman official and his British wife. Far from being Irish, as is commonly supposed, Saint Patrick was actually Welsh. The only reason he ended up in Ireland was that he was kidnapped at the age of 16 and taken there by Irish pirates, right? So again, the book was trying to describe something, and as an example, it went on to uh, tell us something more about the whole Saint Patrick's Day and Saint Patrick, right? About that. All right, we will go to the next one. So this guy, Frederick Frobel, founded an institute in Germany for young children. In 1840, he renamed it to what it is known today. Many who opened similar institutes had learned from Frobel because he sort of came up with the whole concept of it. And this lady, uh, Margaret Mayer, founded the first in the US, though short lived and German speaking. She later met Elizabeth Peabody, who visited Frobel and helped popularize the concept. So, what type of institute did Frobel establish? Okay, let's hear it from Debasmita.
Kindergartens?
Okay, and why kindergartens?
Germany, young children. So going
Absolutely
by
right.
that.
So, kindergarten, if you end up pronouncing it, right, it sort of does not quite feel it's a simple English word, but it does happen to have this whole German origin because a German guy actually came up with the whole concept of kindergartens, right, for small children, young children there. Okay.
I think Rishabh, it comes from some German word, right? If I'm not wrong. The
Yeah,
Yes.
kindergarten, I think.
if
Garten is
you,
a German. Both of them are German words.
yeah,
Kinder
it's,
is
I think kinder
plural
is
of children.
children.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Kinder
garden.
is children and garden is
Correct, correct.
basically garden.
playground or something. Yeah,
Correct, correct.
playground for children, something like that. Yeah, if you expand the word.
Yes.
Yeah. All right, that's our answer, kindergarten. We will go to the next question. Here's question 5. So, in the late Middle Ages, as banking evolved in Italy, finally, of this question, transactions were conducted in open air markets. When a banker became insolvent, their bench was broken as a symbolic act. Simple question: which word derived literally from the Italian phrase "banca rota," meaning broken bench, originated from this practice? Okay, let's have it from Divya this time.
Bankrupt.
Bankrupt is actually right. Let's see the answer. So that's the whole story of how and why bankrupt as a word is there right now. So again, as we were talking about the subtract question, how God be with you became goodbye. This is one way in which you actually end up forming a word from different languages, right? You combine different languages and their meanings, Latin, Italian, uh, and then you combine two different words, and that's how you get one particular word, right? So again, good answer there. This is how we get the word bankrupt because at a point of time, uh, you know, if a guy goes insolvent, uh, their branch would literally be broken up. I wonder what is the internet equivalent for this. You end up breaking their computers or their Google Sheets or something like that. All right, we'll go to the next question. Okay, so just a quick prompt before we go ahead. Uh, just mention a song or a lyric that gives you goosebumps every time you listen to it.
Does it have to be English?
Again, we'll expand it to languages. Go ahead. It could be anything.
Okay, so you need a specific lyric, is it?
Yeah, or any set of words.
Well, there's this Hindi song called Uf Teri Ada.
Mhm.
That gives me goosebumps every time. It
So the
also has
whole
an English part, no? But I like there's a bit of English in it, so I think that qualifies.
yeah. You mean the whole song or a particular part from the song?
I mean, at the beginning, there's some great music and the Jogi Nachle lyrics to
Right.
that particular section.
Yeah, that's a good song. That's a good song for sure. Yeah. I think for me, I'm not sure if this whole still qualifies for it, but then this song, right, "Time" by Pink Floyd. Uh, it's been 10 years. You skip the line, the running. You've skipped the finish line. I think she can might be able to give the exact lyrics. But yeah, there's a part in which you it says you missed the finish line. 10 years have gone behind you. No one told you when to run. You missed the starting gun. So that I think the first time when I heard it, it was quite a thing. Yeah. Yeah, those are the lyrics. And then one day you find 10 years have got behind you. No one told you when to run. You missed the starting gun. That was quite a thing when I heard it for the first time. Yeah. Okay. And anything else, folks? Again, does not necessarily have to be English. But yeah.
So there is one poem by Dushyant Kumar,
Hmm.
which is called something like पीर नहीं इस हिमालय से कोई गंगा निकलनी चाहिए. So there is one line. It says like uh, uh, I don't remember exactly, but it means something like the walls uh, are like wobbling like curtains,
Hmm.
and still you are not awakened. Now it is time that something should happen. So it is kind of uh, a very motivational song, poem. But maybe you can try listening yourself. Uh,
Sure, sure. Sure,
Uh,
sure.
does does it have to be strictly a poem or a song, or it can be just any like
Yeah, I
piece of
mean,
dialogue?
yeah, why not? Why not? Go ahead.
Ouch. Okay, uh, uh, so there's this anime called Bleach, and the main villain of the series, he gives this monologue about how gods are born and stuff like that. He says that like I don't remember the exact words, but it goes something like people always look towards always search for other people who are at a higher position than them to place their trust on them, to place their fate on them. That and those people again find somebody else that are higher than them to place their trust on them. This is how the king of everything is born. This is how the god of everything is born. Which, like, it felt really true to me for some reason. Like, I didn't understand completely when I first heard that line, but it just somehow resonated with me. That and another line he once said that admiration is the furthest state from understanding. These couple of lines stuck with me for a long time. I mean, still stuck with me.
Got it. Got it. Great. Also, folks, if you could actually type in, the titles of the piece that you're talking about, in the chat, because as part of the recording, we'll also get a transcript. So, I can actually compile a whole list of, suggested themes or stuff that we talked about, as part of the session as well. So, do type in whatever you've been, talking about as well. All right. Divya says, did you exchange a walk on part in the wall for a lead role in a cage? Divya, where is this from?
This is from Wish You Were Here by Pink
Oh,
Floyd.
oh, oh,
Yeah.
oh, 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 yeah, yeah. Did you exchange a walk on? Right, get it, get it. Now I remember. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think for sure, if you take up any song, Pink Floyd is going to have, lots of different meanings. Like you can actually do a whole PhD about Pink Floyd lyrics and their own songs, right? Whatever they've been writing. Also, Echoes is another great philosophical song. It's the longest song as well, apparently. So yeah, great song. Shikin says my favorite in the song is Nick Cave called "Push the Sky Away." Some people say that it's just rock and roll, but it gets you right down to your soul. You've got to just keep on pushing, push the sky away. Right, wonderful. Srivardhan is also here. He says he'll try to be on mute. He happens to be under the weather at this point of time. Nothing serious or to worry about. But yeah, he has had a cold. Uh, yeah, feel free to join in and answer as you feel. All right. Thanks, folks. We'll go to the next part, the next section. Okay, just posting the question marker. Here's the question. Which military vehicle got its name during a secretive experiment when people were misled to think it was a storage container? It's curiously nautical terminology such as hatch, turret, hull, and deck arises from the fact that it was developed by the British Naval Division rather than the Army. Okay, uh, Naman, go ahead.
Is it submarine?
Not a submarine.
Okay.
Not a submarine. Parth.
Is this tank?
Okay, and what makes you think it's a tank?
I don't know. It's the only thing that feels like a storage container.
That is actually right. The answer is indeed a tank, right? So the time when you think of a tank, you see it's there with all those big wheels with that particular cannon, and you see it running on the ground, right? But apparently, it was something that was actually a project of the British Naval Division, and that's how they sort of came up with it. I'm not sure why exactly in the first place they were given the project of doing this. Probably it was one reason that they were just free at that point of time. But yeah, a tank, right? Uh, it was something that was
Uh,
developed by the Naval Division and not the Army. Someone has
Okay.
something to
Yeah. So, about your question, like why you weren't sure it was given to a naval division.
add? Mhm.
Um, Again, I'm not completely sure. Please free to check. But uh, the tank first appeared during the end of World War One. Like it was supposed to appear during World War One, but like the tank got by the time the tank got fully developed, World War One had ended, and then it marked its debut in World War Two. So anyway, Winston Churchill during World War One was apparently overseeing the British Navy, and he was the one that had commissioned or was overlooking the uh, construction and development of the tank. So that that
Yeah.
is the reason I think. Like it was Winston Churchill's brainchild apparently. Again, I'm not sure, but that's what I know.
Yeah. I mean, even if you're not sure, there's definitely, some, I'm sure there's some connection with Churchill and, stuff like that. Yeah, and Shikin says they did tank the release. Yes, they did. Right. And also, what I realized is I was actually running this whole quiz with another friend, and the context was different. I was not actually running the quiz for him, uh, but we were just talking about some content pieces and ideas, right? And he went on to ask me a couple of questions. Uh, for example, this, right? Why exactly the division went on to make the tank? Uh, so just based on this whole content, we can actually make one whole follow-up quiz, and have another quiz just based on some of the blank notes here. All right, for now, here's question 7. Great story, Parijat, and great answer there, Parth. Here's the next question. Right. So again, not exactly something English, but then try to see the whole description of it. Uh, of course, there's a word involved. It's called uh, myoclonus, which refers to quick involuntary jerking movements of the body. It can occur in various conditions, including epilepsy, but also manifests as sudden muscle jerks experienced just before falling asleep. What is the most common and non-serious type of myoclonus? And some of the symptoms for this particular one include sudden, brief, involuntary shock-like movements, variable intensity and frequency, sometimes severe enough to interfere with eating, speaking, or walking. So, what are we talking about? Shikin? Okay, Twitch, not the right answer. Uh, Not the right answer. I think twitching would actually just is myclonus, but no, not the right answer. Ashish,
Hiccups.
okay, and what makes you think it is hiccups?
Oh, I think it can interfere our eating and speaking.
Let's see the answer, and that is actually right. So hiccups is one of those non-serious and harmless myclonus that actually we encounter as humans, right? And there's actually a short explanation in this whole thing why we actually end up getting hiccups, right? So what about Naman? Was that Naman and Path? Was that your guess as well?
Yeah. First thing I read, I was like, "ये तो हिचकी है." Yeah.
Right. So yeah, that's hiccups. And again, just as the word sounds right, pretty sure it has like a Latin origin or something along those lines, and that's why we get hiccups. Okay, great, going so far. Here is the next question. Here's question eight. Again, short question. What one phrase connects the greatest English writer with the longest book that was ever written? Okay, so try to break it down into two parts. In case you know what is the longest book ever written, uh, you are like 70% there with the answer, and try to see or try to guess who is the greatest English writer of all time.
Is the writer given by some poll or like?
But in it's something that's widely accepted.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So any guesses for the writer?
Is it Terman Shakespeare again?
It is a man Shakespeare. Okay. And what could be the connection?
So one of his phrases, right? One of the phrases he has given.
That leads to
I'm blanking on just someone who's. I think Aryan has a.
okay, Aryan.
I was thinking of brevity is the soul of it, and maybe it's ironic because it features in the longest work of his or something like that. I'm not sure if it's a Shakespeare quote.
Okay, brevity is the art of the soul, something like that. You mean?
Yeah, brevity is the soul of wit.
Okay, okay.
Does the phrase like connect the name of the writer to the name of the book, or just the writer to the book? Like anything about the writer to the book?
Praise by the greatest English author with the title of the book.
To be or not to be.
Not quite. Not quite. Right. So we are all quite there. Any guesses for who must have written the longest book ever written? Devasmita?
Is it
I'm
the
guessing, is
Bible?
this a suitable boy?
Oh yes, this is our Vikram set, right?
No. But
4,000 plus
I
words.
no, I doubt
Plus
that
pages.
that is the longest work ever written.
Is
No.
this like the Bible or something?
Bible is again there. It is long, but not that long to be claimed the longest book ever written. Not long.
I think Divya is a guess.
Okay, Divya.
I don't know the phrase. I think is it all the world's a stage?
No, no. Right. But I think we're halfway there. The
What's in a
greatest.
name?
Not quite. No. So it's a particular phrase by indeed Shakespeare. Our man again, Shakespeare, comes the second time in the quiz, and the longest the longest work or book ever written is considered to be by Marcel Proust, Remembrance of Things Past, right? Which also happens to be it was something that was coined by Shakespeare, and also happens to be the French title of the French masterpiece, which is In Search of Lost Time, or first translated into English as Remembrance of Things Past by Marcel Proust, right? And there we go, Shakespeare coming once again in the quiz. And there's a paragraph that actually talks about what are some of the things that Shakespeare contributed to English, right? So just I'll try to read out a bit of this. He coined some 2,000 words, an astonishing number, and gave us countless phrases. As a phrase maker, that has never anyone able to match him. Among his inventions, one fell swoop, in mind's eye, more in sorrow than in anger. Again, in all of these phrases, right? Bag and baggage, vanish into thin air, uh, remembrance of things past, of course, uh, milk of human kindness, soul and the fury, right? Salad days, flesh, foul play, right? Flesh and blood, uh, to be cruel, to be kind, and on and on and on, right? Was so prolific that he could put two in one sentence, as in Hamlet's observation. Though I am native here and to the manner born, it is a custom more honored in the breach than the observance. He could even mix metaphors and get away with it, and as he wrote, or to take arms against a sea of troubles, right? It's like he was a kid when it came to writing English, right? He did not think of अच्छा ये काम चलेगा नहीं चलेगा, but then उसका काम चल गया just because he ended up writing so much and inventing so much, just like any kid would do, just like kids play, right? I think that's what he did with English. So yeah, that's once again Shakespeare for us. And Marcel Proust, his is considered to be the longest work ever written in English. Right? I mean French, but then there's a translated version, of course. All right, we will go to the next part. So again, something about long words, right? One of which, incidentally, is said to be the longest words in English language. It begins with this particular thing that you see in italics, and finishes 1,913 letters later as this phrase, right? This part. I don't know what it is used for, though I dare say it would take some rubbing to get it out of the carpet. So what actually, this is actually a chemical compound. and we know how chemical compounds get their name as chemical compounds because they include a lot of things, and that's how we notify them and we recognize them, right? So I think this is some sort of carpet cleaner or like a thing that you can potentially use for cleaning. So it's such a complex compound that the folks who are there in whole chemistry, they ended up making this whole letter, this whole word that happens to be the longest word which is there in English, right? So of course there are a set when we actually, so this part of the book was actually talking about uh, you know this part of the book was actually talking about some of the longest words and how they are categorized, right? They are categorized as some of these chemical words. There's this whole body anatomy part of it. There's chemical words, and then of course there are a set of words that we use generally in the English language, right? So this bit, this whole chemical compound happens to be the longest word in the language, right? All right, going to the next one. So here's a question. Americans often consider their diction more precise, while British English is generally less phonetic. For example, in Baltimore, pronounced Baltimore, an eagle is called as an eagle, tiger is tiger, water is widow, right? Just think of the accent there. This tendency to compress and alter words was first formally noted in a 1949 New Yorker article by a writer named John Davenport. So he coined what particular term for it, and the answer is basically this whole blank, uh, and VIAN. Okay, so think of these words. Think of what you would when someone pronounces these words like in this fashion. What would you call it? A very short word, one word, and he coined a term for this particular phenomenon. So what is this? Okay, hint. There's a very famous American actor who's known for his speech like this, and everyone says that he speaks in this way. So that's the word. Okay, so
The blank a proper noun.
um, it's not a name. No, not a proper noun. No.
Okay.
Sylvester Stallone is the actor. Okay, just 4 letters. Okay, any guesses, folks?
Any other way to get to it?
Uh, Sylvester Stallone. Just think of his speech. Uh, I can give out the first let's say letter. It starts with S, S, then blank, 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 then VIAN. That is the word. At this point, it's just define what do you call eagle to eagle. That pronunciation. Sylvian, no, not quite, not quite, not quite. I'll wait for 5 seconds and then we'll see the answer. All right, 3, 2, and 1. Let's see the answer. So this is Stalvian. No, not quite. This is Slurvian, right? Like a slurry speech. You slur when you're speaking in this case. So that's why Slurvian. And again, Sylvester Stallone is sort of known for his type of speech right there. All right, let's go to the next question. Slurvian was the answer for that one. Okay, since we are on Slovenian, any character whose way of speaking that you admire? So I actually have a funny answer to this at this point of time. So I'm watching the series Curb, Lucky for from Golmaal. Yeah. Yeah, who knows what language he's speaking there. Of course, very valid answer. Lucky from Golmaal. So I am watching the series Curb Your Enthusiasm. Uh, it's a sitcom, and it has that theme, the popular meme, right? Like so whenever something goes wrong, that tune plays in, and you have directed by Robert E. White. I'm watching that particular series, and there's a character uh, in in the series. Her name is Susie, and she goes very dramatic whenever it comes to speaking with Larry, who is the main guy in the series. So whenever Larry comes in, and it's always something wrong that he has done to Susie, or something to do with Susie, and then Susie is just all guns blazing on Larry. So she uses all the f bombs and whatnot. So it's quite a thing to watch every time Susie comes in talking to Larry all the time. Okay. Any other folks? Any other answers for this one? Parijat says any Freeman speaker from the Dune movies. I've not quite watched Dune, but then Parijat, could you explain just a little bit why, and what is this about?
Uh, okay, so those who have watched the recent Dune movies by Denis Villeneuve. So in Dune, there is this. So it's basically like Dune is basically Game of Thrones, and Star Wars had a love child that is Dune. Uh, I'm oversimplifying. So in Dune, there is this one planet called Arrakis, and the native population of the Arrakis are the Fremen tribe. And they have this particular language that is kind of a mixture of Arabian and other Middle Eastern languages with some Spanish in it. So when the people who play the Fremen tribe in the Dune movies, when they speak, it just comes out very sort of a raw and primal way, especially when you hear Timothy Chalamet's character speak Fremen in Dune 2, when he's accepting his role as the the Messiah in the movie, and he's declaring himself as the Messiah to the Fremen tribe, and he's speaking in Fremen, and it's just so powerful because when you look at Timothy Chalamet, you can't expect him to speak in such a uh, like enticing and authoritarian manner. But when he is giving that speech in Brahman, declaring himself that he is the savior from the stars, the one prophesied, one that has been spoken of in the prophecies of the Fremen, and in their own tongue when he's speaking, it just hits different. Like it gives goosebumps.
Yeah, yeah. Interesting, interesting. And also, I think again I came across this in a quiz that Hans Zimmer again worked on Dune, right? And then since
Yes.
it's something that's based in the future, he sort of came up with weird sounds, weird instruments, and weird, sounds just for the background score. Um, so yeah, they like,
Yes, his thinking was that in most sci-fi movies they would use orchestras, like
yeah,
classical orchestras, and he didn't want to go in that direction because, like you said, that in the future sounds would be different. So
exactly.
he tried to imagine like
Yeah,
what kind of sounds in the future would be there, and yes, he came up with some new instruments to create those sounds.
yeah, yeah. So he pulled a Hans Zimmer there. At this point, it's about time we start using him or his name as a verb.
Mm.
So yeah, that's Hans Zimmer. Okay, Shikin, Srivardhan, Divya, Bhumika, Ashish, anything else to add? And then we'll go on to the next one.
I think I really admire Hans Rosling. Heard a couple of TED talks from him, and he's really nice.
Yeah, factfulness guy, right?
Yeah. Exactly that one.
Yeah, yeah,
He's Swedish guy, so I also like that Swedish accent. So
yeah.
it is really cute.
Yeah, he passed away, unfortunately. I think just around the time when I picked up the book, I realized that, oh, okay, he lost. I think it was around COVID time.
Yeah.
He is no more.
Yeah, and he is one of the most optimistic guy I have ever seen.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, his book, right, Factfulness, is quite a book.
Yes,
Not
yes,
quite a
right.
book. Yeah. Parijat also says Jordan B. Peterson. Shikin says David Attenborough. Of course, David Attenborough is the way he delivers something is amazing. But I'm pretty sure it also is a combination of the visuals as well, and his whole presence there. All right. Again, great answers there, folks. Thanks a lot. We will move to the next part. Let's see the next question. So, unlike most other mammals whose airways and food passageways are separate, humans share a passage for both breathing and swallowing, increasing the risk of food aspiration. In modern humans, the larynx descends between 3 and 5 months of age, which coincides with the period when babies are most vulnerable to sudden infant death syndrome. Right? What key ability in humans does the descended larynx enable compared to other animals? Okay, so something that we can do as an ability, and animals cannot. So what is this? Thanks to our larynx. And larynx, uh, if you know what larynx is, you know the answer. It's like that. Okay, Parijat. Okay. Hold on. We will go to Bhumika this time. We haven't heard
Okay,
from.
so we can speak.
Okay, and what about animals?
Like they can only produce sound, but we can actually speak different words and vowels.
All right. That indeed is the right answer. Parijat and Ashish, was that your guess as well?
Yes, yes. The
Mm,
ability to speak. Yes.
No, my guess was in a completely different direction.
What was your guess?
That we can breathe from our mouths and our
Oh,
nostrils.
okay. Good.
Rishabh,
Okay,
my
so
guess was
larynx is also known as the voice box.
Yeah. Right.
Uh,
Naman?
I was going to I did not type anything. I was going to say that animals can just produce sounds like a dog can bark and stuff like that. Or we can actually delve into clear speech like big words. I think it's the same thing, right?
It is the same thing. Yeah. Right. So, yeah, there you go. Like in the diagram, you see, larynx is quite there, which is there. So the whole passage that goes backwards, it goes into the lungs, and this passage just about there, it goes into the stomach, right? And that's where we actually have our larynx. Uh, so larynx and the whole thyroid gland is quite there, right? And if you see larynx is here, right, and they sort of have the same for breathing, they have the same for where the food goes in, right? So that's there, protecting the airway during swallowing, functioning breathing, and producing sound for speech, right? We'll go to the next question. Okay, so I think Bhumika missed this. So in case you have a guess, what you can do is just type an X in the chat, and I'll take a guess from you. Okay, here's question 11. There are two main writing systems. One that uses alphabets like English, and the other relies on pictographic, ideographic symbols. The script is composed of 214 radicals, which combine to form words. For example, the words eye and water create teardrop, while mouth and bird together form the word song. Right? So, with approximately 50,000 characters, typewriters for this language are enormous, and even skilled typists can only type about 10 words per minute. Imagine that. So, if a Western keyboard had to accommodate all its ideographs, it would roughly be the size of two ping pong tables. Which script or language is being described here? Uh, okay, Shikin, and we'll take from Naman and Parijat then. He says hieroglyphics. No, this is actually a language that I'm talking about, and this radical, and how you create the word teardrop. This is actually how you write the language. It's actually a very famous language. It's just like you have Hindi. This is another language. Okay, Naman.
So I think Shikin meant Egyptian, and that's wrong, right?
Hmm, hmm.
Okay, I'll then go for Chinese, Mandarin or Chinese.
Okay, and why that?
I've seemed to have read something, so my first guess would have been Egyptian. But since not that, I've read this teardrop thing somewhere. I don't recollect where.
Okay,
So
okay.
initially, I was also going to say Egyptian, but now I'll go for Chinese.
All right.
Or
Let's quickly take Parijat and Divya's guesses.
My guess was going to be kanji for Japanese.
Oh, okay, okay, okay.
Kanji for the script and Japanese for the language.
Makes sense. Makes sense. Makes sense. Makes sense. Divya.
I was gonna say Mandarin too.
Okay, and last guess, Bhumika.
Uh, I was thinking of maybe it can be emojis and Unicode scripts.
Oh, okay. No, not quite. I mean, we're still talking about something that's old, right? And you see, there's actually this lateral clue, which is there, which is again, Bill Bryson had smartly put it, ping
Ping pong
pong.
table.
ping pong, acha ping
So
pong.
this
Okay.
is indeed Chinese. This is indeed Chinese. Ping pong being, it's quite a popular sport which is there in China. So yeah, Chinese is indeed the right answer. The or Mandarin, as a whole world calls it. An equally useful advantage of written Chinese is that people can read literature of 500 years ago as easily as yesterday's newspaper. And that's something we can't do for something like Hindi, right? Or even for English, right? Even though the spoken language has changed beyond recognition. If Confucius were to come back to life today, no one apart from scholars would understand what he was saying, but if he scribbled a message, people could read it as easily as they were to read a shopping list, right? So that's something unique about Chinese, and something more unique about Chinese we have here as a lingo bit. Uh, so now the whole flexibility of the language, right? As you can see, people can actually form their own versions of different letters. So in the end, it says that in to this day in China and other countries, I'm reading the last third line now, such as Japan, where the writing system is so ideographic, there is no logical system for organizing documents. Filing systems often exist only in people's head. So if the secretary dies, the whole office can actually fall apart, right? So imagine that. I'm sure the problem has sort of taken care of by the computers at this point of time. But imagine in the pre-computer era, what a nightmare it would have been just to have that, right? So yeah, again, that's something about words and Chinese.
Chinese, my favorite clip about Chinese is, I don't know if you've seen it or not, but there is a clip from World WWE where The Rock speaks Chinese.
The Rock speaks Chinese.
So
Okay,
yeah,
so is it
John.
legit Chinese or
No, no.
how?
So that's the fun part. So John Cena speaks legit Chinese, and Rock responds, let me reply in Chinese," and then goes on to say, "Ching
Yeah,
chong ping pong," something like that. Stone cold. It's a very funny clip. You should see
yeah,
it.
I've seen this. He replies with like very racist stuff. You must have seen that Bing Chilling meme. I think that's the one with John Cena.
Which meme is this?
That ice cream ad or something. John Cena speaks in Chinese and advertises for this ice cream or popsicle or something.
Oh, I've not seen that. I just remember this instance from the WWE. So I think, did they choose Cena because of that instance, or was it vice versa?
That I have no idea. I just know it's a famous meme. Bing chilling. It's called.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, just like you have English, which is sort of very standardized, very very much there, which has its own rules, which has its own grammar, which has its own tenses, figures of speech, and whatnot. There are proper rules which actually guide English to some extent. Uh, and on the other hand, you have the literally the other part of the world which has a language so widely spoken, in fact the most widely spoken language which is there in the whole world, right? By the most amount of people, and it functions in this particular form, right? That's Chinese. We'll go to the next question. Easy question this time. Bhumika, you had something to add, or was this for the last question?
For the last question.
Okay. Right, here's question 12. So Smith, coming from ironsmith, right? The one who deals with iron, works with iron, is the most common surname in America and Britain. Also because it just has been a profession which has been just out there as part of history and different cultures at different points of time. And that's how we get the name Smith. So the German Schmidt, French Ferrier, Spanish Herrero, and Hungarian Kovacs, and Russian Znetno all have the same meaning as Smith. So just guess what is the Italian equivalent for Smith. Okay, and again, all famous surnames. So just think of a famous surname from Italy. Any famous surname from Italy? Okay, Bhumika.
Is it Ferrari?
Okay, let's see the answer. This is Ferrero. So you have Enzo Ferrari, you have Pietro Ferrero, who made Ferrero Rocher. So this is indeed Ferrari or Ferraro, any version of Ferraro, Ferrari, Ferrero, right? So that's Schmidt. And just imagine, right? We have Iron Smith and Smith, Schmidt, this French, this Spanish, this Hungarian, this Russian. They all sort of have the same meaning. I'm just guessing what could be the Marathi equivalent, Lokhandwala or something like that. So
Lokhande. I think it's
Lokhande,
Lokhande. Yeah,
Lokhande, yeah,
very common Marathi surname.
yeah, indeed. All right, good answer there. She was also the only one who actually got and attempted the question. Okay, we'll go to the next question. I think the easiest one of the lot will take answer from someone from whom we haven't heard in a while. So this word is believed to have originated from initials, with multiple theories suggesting different sources. Some claim it comes from an Indian chief meaning this name, while others attribute it to this guy who was a shipping agent or President Martin Van Buren's nickname. Okay. So according to these theories, the initials were stamped or scribbled on documents and crates, gradually becoming synonymous with quality and reliability. So what word is this? Okay. Easiest question of the lot. The answer is literally over there. So what word is this that gradually became synonymous with quality, reliability? Right? Okay, Divya.
Okay.
Okay, and okay it is. So that's how we get okay. Uh, okay, easy answer there. We'll go to the next one. Question 14. So what word is derived from Joka Mastela? Again, sorry, pardon my German there. Named after a 16th century silver mine in Jokamstal in Germany. So the first recorded use of this word in English dates back to 1553, when it was applied to various continental currency. Its first recorded use in America was in 1782 when Thomas Jefferson, in Notes on a Monetary Unit for the US, advocated for this name, starting that the Spanish equivalent is a known coin and the most familiar of all to the mind of people. So, what word is this? Okay, Bhumika this time.
So it is dollar.
Okay, and what about the dollar?
Uh, I don't know. I mean, it coin दिया है question में तो maybe.
Okay. Divya, what's your guess?
Same dollar.
Okay, and Parijat?
Also, I was gonna say sterling, as in pound sterling.
Okay, so Bhumika and Divya are actually right. So this is indeed the dollar. So the dollar word sort of comes from, this whole symbol that you see. You have these whole poles, I would say, and in between that you have something like a currency and you have a crown, right? And that sort of gave us the symbol as well. So, and there's also, in case you want to read more, there's actually this whole article that says how the US got the dollar from the Spanish dollar, right? So that's the origins there. Okay, so dollar again, the right answer. Great going. We'll go to the next question. Here's question 15. Uh, so this institution, so just use institution as a very loose word. It's sort of known for its precise and technical descriptions of everyday objects, right? So it does something else, but then one of the things it also does as part of its work, or just because there's a lot of red tape going on, you need to be very precise because it's super secret what they work on and all that. Uh, it's known for its precise and technical descriptions of everyday objects. For example, it once described toothpicks as wooden interdental simulators and tents as frame supported tension structures. So this level of detail extends to every item purchased by that particular institute/organization, including plastic whistles, where you have a 16-page description just describing about plastic whistles, olives that take up 17 pages, and hot chocolate that actually takes up 20 pages. So which institute organization is this? Okay, Naman.
Wait, so they purchase all these things, is it?
Yeah, so just imagine, right? Like, so it could just be that they need to make pizzas. That's why they have olives. It's not specifically that they would purchase olives for as part of their work, because there are people you need to feed them, and that's why you make a pizza, right?
Okay.
As simple as that. Nothing too complex.
I'll skip this. Sorry, I'll skip this.
Okay. Divya.
Is this the White House?
Okay, good guess. Thinking along the right lines. But something else. But something else. Okay, Parijat.
Yeah, I will also skip this one for me.
So just again, you're there. You're right geography as well. But just think of other institutes, organizations.
Oh, then the FBI.
Again, not the right one. But
The Smithsonian?
not Smithsonian. Ashish.
Oxford?
Not Oxford. Bhumika.
No, I don't have an answer.
Is it a prison, Rushabh,
Not
since you
not
said they need to feed people?
not a prison. No.
Pentagon?
Could it be the Library of Congress?
I think I heard the answer somewhere. Who said before Library of Congress?
I did.
Vivian?
The Pentagon?
It is indeed the Pentagon, right? So there we go. The Pentagon, just as part of all the things that it does, there's just imagine there's one guy whose job is to do this, right? Making specific descriptions of the stuff that actually happens over there, right? For example, there you have like a type of sandwich cookie, and also because there must be this canteen which is there. They need to bring in items into Pentagon, uh, and it's super heavy security, right? And that's why they need to describe all these items to the other people. So there's no ambiguity, right? So type 2 sandwich cookie were outlined as follows. The cookie shall consist, just it's so frustrating and just frustrating to read in the first place, right? But imagine there's a guy who has to actually do this. So it consists of 2 round cakes with a layer of filling between them. The weight of the cookie shall be no less than 21.5 grams with a filling weight of no less than 6.4 grams. The base cake must be uniformly baked with a color ranging between chip 27885, God knows what this is, and chip 13711. Color comparisons shall be made under natural daylight with objects positioned to avoid um, specular refraction. Yeah, nice use of American tax money there. So just imagine this is something happening as well. Uh, but then if we just take this whole example and this whole occurrence, right? This is also why English in the first place is so widely out there, right, on the internet, just because so much is written about it by a lot of people, or a lot of people consume English. They end up writing in English. So that's why English is just out there so much, right? All right. Great answer there, Divya. And everyone thinking in the right lines over there. And we know how the American tax money has been getting used. I wonder if how many Americans even know about something like this, right? All right. Here's question 16. Again, sort of an easy one. Just think of words this time. When this word first entered English language in the mid 16th century, it was spelled with an R. However, over time, the Italian spelling and pronunciation began to gain popularity. For over a century, both spellings and pronunciations coexisted until English speakers, in characteristically illogical manner, ultimately adopted the French pronunciation but retained the Italian spelling. Right? So just like we saw kindergarten, that sort of has a German spelling, German origin, but still it's an English word. You have this word which happens to have a Italian spelling but a French pronunciation, right? Okay. Shikin, let's have you. Okay, resume, not quite. Okay, I'll take it from Bhumika and then we'll go to Divya.
It is error. मतलब pronunciation अलग हो सकता है but ERROR.
Yeah, but still, that's error, right?
हाँ.
Okay. Divya,
I don't know why, but I think it's nonchalant.
not quite, not quite. It's a famous. It's still a famous word. Ashish.
Croissant?
No, no, not that. I made this question before the trend. Yeah,
Rishabh, is it? I'll also take a guess.
yeah.
Is it rendezvous? That RENDZ?
Oh, yeah. I mean, good. It fits. But not quite. Not quite. Not the answer.
Any hints then?
So it's also in army rank.
Oh, colonel, is it?
That
Colonel and
is right.
colonel.
That
Okay.
is right. So you end up pronouncing as a colonel, but then it is colonel, right? And yeah, you have all the different army ranks which are out there, right? So
Rishabh,
yeah,
just need to drop off. Thank you so
no
much for
worries,
the
no
questions.
worries.
Very nice session.
Thanks.
And I'll please send me the remaining 4 if possible.
Absolutely, absolutely. I'll share
Thank
the
you so much.
recording as well. Yes, thanks.
Thank you so much.
So last 4 questions coming up, folks. We'll try to wrap this up in the next 10 minutes. Okay. Uh, right, but just before that, any language mistakes, since we're talking about kernel, that made you, in a funny position, or this? I think this reminds me of, the principal has passed away remark that students say when uh, they mean to say that the principal just uh, went across this hall, something like that. So yeah, anything else, folks? Yeah, I remember one more. It's not mine, or I think this was someone who was there on the internet. So you have these auto correctors, right? Uh, and a guy sent a email to his manager, and the manager's name was I think DOGG, his last name, and it corrected to DOG. So the email started from "Hi dog." So again, just one of those things that's funny about languages. Okay, I'll just wait for 5 seconds and then we'll go ahead. All right, let's see the next question. All right, question 17. So the systemic study of dialects is recent, making it impossible to know how many vanished before being recorded, right? So, a professor at the University of Leeds proposed documenting England's dialects before they disappeared, but after he moved to Oxford, Harold Orton carried on the work. From 1941 to 1961, field workers traveled to 313 rural areas, interviewing elderly, illiterate, and locally born individuals to record everyday words. And the result was the Linguistic Atlas of England. So, who's this guy who lived from the year 1892 to 1973? Was one of the first scholars to propose this effort, right? So, as part of some of his other works, he also contributed a lot to English. So, who is this? So, I'll tell you what, he is author of a very famous fictional fantasy world. That's a big hint there. Okay, chicken. Okay, he says Tolkien, and that is actually right. So Tolkien is the guy, J.R.R. Tolkien, John Ronald Reuel Tolkien, and if you actually see his Wikipedia, right, you get a little bit about a little bit info about the guy. Uh, it says writer and philologist. So philologist is actually a guy who works on languages, right? So that's Tolkien for us. Okay, good answer there. We'll go to the next question. Okay, question 18, last three questions. Some accounts suggest that the Dutchman Loris Coaster was the first to invent the movable type of this particular machine. One of his apprentices allegedly fled to Germany, where the renowned inventor may have learned about the process. Before gaining fame, he spent 40 years as a stonemason and mirror polisher. Despite his invention's success, financial struggles forced him to sell it to another businessman, and he died in poverty in 1468. So, who is this pioneer? Okay, Parijat.
Johannes Gutenberg,
And why Gutenberg?
because I remember reading that Gutenberg was a stonemason and nail polisher, and also the printing press happened during the Renaissance, so the timeline fits as well.
Absolutely, absolutely right. So this is indeed Johannes Gutenberg. So he's credited with, inventing the printing press. But then, he was just one of those folks who was there in the whole supply chain of the modern printing press that became, widely popular. You would expect for a guy who's so popular, given the whole credit of inventing the printing press, uh, would be a rich man, he'll have lots of money and whatnot. But then he died in poverty in 1468. And also, the whole history of this is quite hazy, right? In the first place. And this is sort of because stonemason and mirror polisher and all that, right? Like he came from a very weak background. He was not literate, very, very literate. But then for him to be expecting that he actually came up with the whole invention of the machine is just not there, right? He was just there that he sort of took some parts of the machine and sort of made them popular enough, and then he gave it to someone else and the other guy did the job, right? But then he is actually created with the printing press. So that's Gutenberg for us. All right, we will go to, wow, I think this is the last lingo bit. So it says the mainland of Europe never produced an alphabet of its own. Imagine that, right? Our own alphabets has its roots in pictographs. Our letter A comes from Semitic Alf, which means ox, and originally was a rough depiction of an ox's head. B comes from Semitic Beth, meaning house, right? And that's how you have something going on for each of the letters, and that's how we actually get all the letters in the English alphabet, right? Right. Here's the next question. So, his first major work, which was a grammatical institute for the English language, included Grammar, Reader, and Speller. Uh, Published between 1783 and 1785, he gained widespread recognition after the American Spelling Book in 1788. After his death in 1843, two businessmen from Springfield, Massachusetts, bought the rights to his work and hired his son-in-law, Chauncey, in 1847, they published a new edition which became an instant success, soon found in almost every home. So, who is this lexicographer? Okay, Divya?
Is the book Renan Martin?
Again, good guess, but not the right one.
Okay.
I think Renan Martin came slightly later. That must be early 20th century. So think of something old. Again, very, very popular. This guy worked on it. Two other guys worked on it. And the two businessmen, you can guess they were brothers in some sense. So they have a common last name. So common last name, and this guy who worked on a grammatical institute of English language.
Is
And
it the
Lex
Oxford? Sorry.
something something else, not the one. Two names this time. Okay, Parijat.
Is it the Merriam-Webster dictionary?
That is indeed right. As I mentioned, these are two names. So Noah Webster was actually the guy who came up with the Grammar One book, and Charles and George Merriam were actually the two businessmen. And combined with the combined efforts, they sort of made Webster Merriam-Webster popular, right? And the book goes on to say that Webster's American Spelling Book was so popular it went through 300 editions between 1788 and 1829, with its estimates suggesting that by the late 19th century it had sold over 16 million copies. Some sources claim as many as 100 million. It remains one of the best-selling books in American history, possibly second only to the Bible, right? So yeah, that's the dictionary bros, if I were to call it, Merriam-Webster, Noah Webster, and George and Charles Merriam, right? And again, at this point of time, even their dictionaries is something that's very widely out there. Their website is very widely out there, right? So that's Merriam-Webster. Okay, last question of the whole set coming up. So, what word, originally a translation of Nietzsche's German term Übermensch, meaning overman or beyond man, was first popularized in English by George Bernard Shaw in the 1903 play Man and Dash, and later reinforced by Thomas Common's 1909 translation of Nietzsche's work. All right. Uh, okay, let's see if we have someone else answer. Uh, Ashish, Bhumika, and Shikan. Any guesses? Let's just wait for about 10 seconds, 5 seconds, and then we'll take answers from Parijat and Divya. Bhumika?
The Superman.
Sorry?
The blank is the Superman, like the man and the Superman.
Okay, okay. Parijat?
Yeah, my guess is also Superman.
Okay, and Divya?
Same.
That is absolutely right. I mean, I didn't know this was something quite popular or out there. But yeah, this is indeed Superman. And George Bernard Shaw actually wrote this play, Man and Superman. That's how, Superman, the whole word sort of came, and the whole term sort of came for the very first time, recorded for the first time by George Bernard Shaw. Very well done. And with that, we come to the last prompt and then just some closing remarks. So, just a quick mention of any piece of work that made you fall in love with English. It could be anything. It could be a book. It could be any form of literature in any form. So for me, quite honestly, I can't think of any other answer, but this book, it just made me think a lot more when it comes to English. So that would be my answer for this.
There is a movie called My Blueberry Nights. It is a very slow, calm movie, but it has a lot of conversation between these two people, and I really like that movie. I think I've learned a lot of my English from conversations in that movie.
Right, right. Wonderful, wonderful. Okay. Any other answers? All right. Let's go to the next part. So, so far, of course, we've talked about books. We've talked about the language, how language has evolved, and uh, I tried making a quiz based on the whole English language and something that was based on the book. Uh, so this is actually how I won't call it a spoiler, but then I just found it to be so beautiful that uh, it is sort of encapsulates languages, right? So it says in Britain. Uh, on a single evening, watched Neighbours, which is an Australian soap opera. Cheers, which happens to be an American comedy, which is set in Boston, and East Enders, which is a British program set in Cockneys in London. All of these bring into people's home on one single evening of a variety of vocabulary, accents, and other linguistic influences that they would have been unlikely to experience in a single lifetime just 2 generations ago, right? If we would be worrying about anything to do with the future of English, it should be not that the various strands will drift apart, but that they will grow indistinguishable. And what a sad, sad loss that would be, right? So it basically says that as a diversity in terms of English, it is something that is important, right? Diversity is important in terms of languages as well, right? Just imagine how pale and how you know easy it would be if we were to not have different accents, different forms of languages. For example, something I visited Hyderabad quite frequently. I made like 6 trips last year, and on one of the trips I spent a good amount of times with some of these locals who grew up in Hyderabad, and I sort of just fell in love with the Hyderabadi Hindi accent, so much so that I came back. I asked for recommendations for Hyderabadi Hindi comedy movies, and then I had a laughing riot. When I watched those movies, and whenever there's someone who's talking in Hyderabadi accent, wala Hindi, I just love it. I mean, I would like to just take a chair, sit down, and just see them watching. Just see them having that conversation. So uh, that's something wonderful, I think, about languages in general, right? Um, so yeah, I think with that we come to the end of the session. Thanks a lot. And again, that's thank you for all of you in different languages. Really appreciate your time. Do stay in touch, folks. And yeah, I think you'll definitely get to know the next time I'm doing something else. So yeah, thanks a lot for joining on a Sunday night. I think it almost took us like 2 hours, if not less than that. And thanks for staying back. Appreciate it. Thank you.